Hey everybody, hey, it's Jim from Pace Survival. I'm just going to show you just the basics of filleting and skinning, the quick way, I think is the quick way, for perch. Okay, so I caught a couple perch today, and the key is you first want a really sharp knife. I've used this for a long time, I love it. For big fish, you got to have the whole knife sharp. For this one, you want to make sure your tips are sharp, because this is going to be doing a lot of the cutting. So you first start out, make sure the fish is somewhat dead. Okay, what you do is you have these little fins. You have the dorsal fin. You want to get right underneath. Okay, what I find helpful is there's a little bone right here that comes right along, and it kind of silhouettes the gills. Okay, it actually goes alongside. You don't want to cut directly on it. You want to go on at about a 45-degree angle and just get your initial cut, right? And I lead it right off of there. So I cut in, and I'll cut right along there. And what you're going to be doing is you're actually going to be tracing the fish. You're actually going to be tracing the fish with a cut, okay? So the next thing is you just go right up the belly of the fish. And this is definitely a pregnant female. I lived in Japan for about 2 years, and so I really like the fish roe. I don't go as far as like eating them raw or anything, but I really enjoy them, so I keep them, and actually will make a good way. So you don't have to cut through. These bones right here are hooked together, so you want to just cut through it. This fish is dead. You're going to be hitting like a lot of the spine and stuff like that. It will twitch, stuff like that. The next thing you want to do is you want to flip it. Okay. I hold it right by the gills, just right through the cut that I made. And what you want to do is you don't want to cut all the way through and hit the ribs that are right here. The ribs are outlined right along there. And how you know that is just right where the bung hole is, a little pooper, is where the ribs kind of start. And they slowly fade like that. So they start about right there. Okay, so you can get about an inch in where it's just meat on the back side, right along the dorsal fin. Okay, so what you do is you just start off, and this is where having a nice sharp knife comes in hand. You just cut along, and as you do this a couple times, especially with perch, catfish, any of those things with spines, it takes just a little bit of practice. So as you see, I just reached where the butthole is, right? And you can see where the lines are. And what you do is it takes a little bit of practice, but as you do it, it gets a little easier. You just push all the way through, okay? And you just go along the spinal column, and as you get through the spinal column, you don't cut all the way through, right? You kind of just trace it. If you do this correctly, the fish itself will actually almost be translucent. Okay, so at this point, I've made a big outline already of the whole fish with all the cuts. It cuts the whole thing. What you want to do now is with your finger and your knife, you got to be careful, is I like to just peel it up just a little bit. You can see I just got right underneath that small little area, and I'll catch it and I'll hold it with my thumb. Okay, and a lot of times you can just press the head down and you just pull it up. Okay, and it takes a couple times, but you can pull it all the way up. Now the great thing about this that I've noticed is as you start getting into something like this and you start getting it cut, is it took off a lot of this meat at the bottom. What you see is though right below the ribs, it's hard to really get that meat. And so it's very, very thin meat, but if you're like me, I like everything I can. You just catch right underneath the skin, and I just like to pull that little meat off, right? And so it just takes that little piece off. But that's something that I like to deep fry. My boy likes to call it chicken fish because it looks like chicken fingers, but they're just little fish. Okay, so back onto this little guy. Just grabbing onto it. Just pulling the rest of this little skin off. This is kind of a bigger fish, but the smaller ones you can do it in just one big swipe. Kind of messed up on that one, but if you see, now you got one nice fillet. One nice fillet. You got the roe, the guts. You can kind of leave in there. If you want to gut it, you can. These fish really don't have too much to it. And then you hold it. You just kind of get that little finger peace sign. You hold on to the fish itself. Okay. And just like we cut, but this time we're going to cut straight down, and we're going to cut right along. Now what that does is it separates the meat, as you can see, from the spinal column. And how you do this next is you just cut right along it, and you just want to be nice and gentle, especially when you have a nice knife, is when you cut right along it, it's going to go right along the fish bones. It's going to trace the fish bones, okay? So when you trace the fish bones, then you continue through it. You're going to feel right here there's going to be some hair bones sticking out vertically, okay, when the fish is laying down like this. Okay, you don't want to press your way through and crush through those bones, because you will have some of that in your fillet. So what I do is, you get this little piece. It's going to just go all the way through, just like we were doing before. Just cut it all the way through. Just keep filleting right against the spinal column. And just wham, 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 wham. And then right when you hit those little bones I was talking about, what I like to do is I just slowly cut my way through, find my way right there, hit over to where the butthole area is, like I was telling about. I cut down, and then just like I did before, I cut over, and then wham, that's it. Okay, so this little meat right here, like I said, there's those I kind of missed a little bit of that, that's alright, but there's those little hair bones. You can't really see them, but you can feel them with your knife if you're very gentle. Okay, this meat right here is the same thickness as that one that I got before. It's just very thin meat. You could take it off. You can do what I was just kind of doing. You just like the backbone, you cut all the way through. You cut just right down to where we were at. I work on one side, and I only do this if I catch a really big one. This is a 10-incher. It's a decent sized one. But if you catch like a walleye or a pike, you know, stuff like that, especially where you got a deboned pike, you can get this little meat off. But if you're like me, if you're gonna take it and from its habitat and you kill it and whatever, I use it all for meat, so I don't waste anything. Like I said, I even eat the roe. Alright, some people think that's kind of crazy, but that's the basics of this fish. Okay, so now you can see it's basically translucent. I do the exact same thing to this side, and then just go from there. So I'm going to do it all again. I'm going to cut right along this bone right here, like I said in that last video. I cut it straight down. This already has a nice cut from the last one, so I just leave that. I don't want the fin to catch on, and so I'm going to cut through that fin, and I'm going to go back on the back side. I'm going to go back on this back side. Now this one's different because the fish is facing the opposite direction. You have to be careful because you'll be cutting towards yourself. The other way is you're cutting away from yourself. Okay, so you do the same thing. Is you hold on with your finger with the fish, and you don't want to cut deep like I was talking about. You just want to trace. Now, just watching this video, I almost just snapped myself. Alright, so you want to trace all the way down to the butthole like I was talking about. Right, the lines of the fish will actually show you when you're in line to cut through. Then, just like I said before, it takes a little bit of practice. You just got to be real careful. You just kind of ply yourself through. Make sure you don't go on the other side of the spinal column. And then, just like anything else, you just cut your way through. Just cut it right through. Wham. All right. Then from here, you get it right underneath that meat and the skin. Grab the bottom of the head and just pull up. Right. After you do a couple of these, you get pretty used to it. And just like I said, there's that hair. I always start on this small side, and then you want a nice little knife just to cut right between there. Wham. Right. Chicken fish. Piece over here, and then just like we did it before, you get on the other side of this fish and you start getting right down along the spinal column. You just get right along that spinal column. It's kind of hard when I'm trying to show you on the video and getting the right angle, so I'm just going to get right down along that spinal column, and then from here you can see that cut. Okay, and you can see it's almost translucent to the other side. And you just cut all the way down to where those hair bones are, and you just kind of let it just trace it through all the way to where you can feel those bones. You can kind of hear it. that's the hair bones that come right along here, okay? So now you do the same thing here. Make sure that you guys are watching this part. So just come right down. As you can see, I'm right about where the butthole would be, okay? Now here is where I already made that cut. You just come back, catch your other cuts, right? Which I just cut right here. From here, just like I said before, from here, just like what I said before, is you want to go right where those hair bones are. You catch them, you just cut right above them, and just work your way down the fillet, and then cut through. There's a little bit more hair bones, got to watch out. There we go. So you just cut through, and then just connect your fillets, okay? And as you can see, it's almost translucent in the back. You can see, you know, it's pretty clear. There's a little bit of meat I'm gonna get off of this. Like I said, I like making little things. I could have done this a little bit better if I wasn't trying to work around this camera. But but after you do this a lot, especially when you catch a lot of perch, limits for perch in most areas are pretty high. So you can get a lot of perch at this and just whack through them. And the main thing is, you just want a really nice sharp knife. After I do it, I just do a once over, just make sure the knife is sharp. And then I just go from there. Okay? And then all this, throw it away, compost it, good for the garden. And that's it. You can catch a pretty good amount of meat off of just one little fish. And when you catch about 20, 30 of these little guys, it's great. Especially when you dehydrate them, you can make them into like little fish jerky. You can make all little stews. What I like to do is I freeze them in about 4 or 5 fillets in one packet, and that's a meal. And then I put all those in a big Ziploc bag or a big baggie with all the fillets in it. All right. Well, that's really the video. Yeah, watch my other videos if you like this. You could watch where we caught these actual ones when I was using some Dub Baits crickets that I tried for the first time, and they worked really well. And I caught a few, caught a triple header. But you can watch that video, and I appreciate you looking into these things, and leave your comments and like us. Thank you.